Welcome to the deep dive, your express lane through, well, the information highway. You're busy, right? The world is just awash in data, and frankly, who really has the time to sift through every single report? That's where we come in. We do the heavy lifting, pulling out those golden nuggets of insight so you get well informed, fast, and maybe learn a few surprising things along the way. Today, we're taking a deep dive into something that, okay, at first glance, might sound like a bit of a mouthful: the Kinetic Chromogenic Spectrophotometer market. Now, stick with me here. These are basically incredibly precise lab instruments. Think of them measuring how substances react by watching tiny color changes over time, changes you just can't see with the naked eye. This tech, it's absolutely crucial for things like testing water quality, making sure our environment is safe, developing new life-saving drugs in pharma, even diagnosing diseases in clinical settings. It's really fundamental stuff for a lot of science and industry. So, our mission today: quickly and thoroughly pull out the most important insights from a detailed market forecast report. So we want to give you a crystal clear understanding of this, yes, niche, but really consistently growing sector. We'll look at market values, growth projections, 2021 all the way to 2033, global, regional, even down to the country level. Okay, let's unpack this.
It's true, the name itself feels a bit technical, doesn't it? But what's really fascinating, I think, is how clearly the data shows these broader trends. Even in markets that specialized, you see these consistent growth patterns emerge. And understanding them gives you insights not just into the tech itself, but, global investment, scientific priorities, economic development, that sort of thing. We're going to clarify exactly what those patterns are for you and, importantly, what they really mean.
Absolutely. And speaking of patterns, let's zoom out first.
Yeah.
The big picture, the overall global market for these instruments. And here's where it gets really interesting, because globally, this market is, well, it's on a very clear, strong upward path. Just listen to these numbers. They really tell a story. Okay, so back in 2021, the market was valued at a solid $413.744 million. A strong base, right? But it's not standing still. It's accelerating. By 2025, that figure is expected to climb pretty significantly, up to $536.7 million. And the long-term view: an impressive $903.089 million projected by 2033.
That consistent global growth, it's quite remarkable. It signals, a sustained increasing demand across different industries all over the world. If you connect this to the bigger picture, it suggests that the basic need for this kind of precise, time-sensitive analysis isn't just holding steady. It's actually expanding. Maybe it's new drug discoveries or tighter environmental rules or biotech advancements.
Yeah.
Whatever the applications, they're clearly driving this market forward. And what's really striking is the CAGR, the compound annual growth rate. It's forecast at 6.721%.
Right.
To put that in perspective, it means the market is projected to nearly double in value in just over a decade.
Wow, nearly double. That's not just growth. That feels like a fundamental shift in how industries are approaching diagnostics and analysis globally. So that raises the key question for us and for you listening. Where exactly is this growth coming from? Is it everywhere equally, or are there specific regions, powerhouses driving this?
That's precisely the right question. Because the global number is compelling, sure, but the real story, that unfolds when you look at the regional and the country data. You see very distinct narratives playing out. Some regions are acting as major accelerators, others are showing surprising, really rapid momentum.
And when we drill down, the report clearly points to Asia Pacific as an absolute powerhouse. Like, the global growth engine for this market, its contribution looks huge.
It absolutely is. What's fascinating is how Asia Pacific isn't just growing, it's really driving that global momentum. It started at about $112.9 million, $112.952 million back in 2021, and it's projected to hit a substantial $270.927 million by 2033.
Okay.
That translates to a CAGR of 7.573%, clearly outpacing the global average. This explosive growth, it isn't just a number. It reflects massive investment across multiple sectors there. The report mentions rapid industrialization, booming pharma and biotech sectors, and a growing focus on environmental protection, all driving demand in countries across the region.
And within Asia Pacific, I bet some countries really stand out, like leading the charge.
Definitely. China, for instance, really dominates, not just in size, but its expansion pace. It's expected to reach $75.453 million by 2033. That's up from about $30.7 million in 2021. That's a high CAGR of 7.793%. But the real star, in terms of growth rate, the fastest named country in the whole report, is India.
India. Okay, tell me about that.
Yeah, India's figures are quite striking. They really show a specific kind of acceleration. It's projected to reach $47.141 million by 2033, growing from just over $18 million in 2021. That's an impressive 8.3331% CAGR.
Wow, over 8%.
Right, and the report suggests it's fueled by significant government investment in biosciences, plus a booming pharmaceutical export industry. India is becoming a production hub that really relies on these precision instruments for quality control, for research.
Makes sense.
And it's not alone in that high-growth group in the region. Singapore. Also strong numbers, going from around $4.8 million to over $12 million by 2033. That's a 7.849% CAGR. Even Southeast Asia, looked at as a combined region, shows really fast growth, hitting nearly $23 million by 2033 from about $9 million in 2021 and 8.128% CAGR there.
Incredible numbers from Asia Pacific really shows where the new energy and investment is flowing, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
But okay, while Asia Pacific is clearly the sprinter, we should acknowledge the bedrock markets too, the ones that still underpin the global growth. So let's turn our attention to North America. North America is still the largest market by total value, right? Showing steady, substantial growth.
Sure.
It generated a hefty $148.948 million back in 2021, and it's projected to reach $300.953 million by 2033. That's a solid CAGR of 6.242%. So strong, for sure. But like you said, a bit slower than Asia Pacific's blistering pace. What's driving this more measured but still significant expansion?
That's an important distinction. North America's size is mainly driven by the United States. The U.S. has this deeply established, well-funded R&D infrastructure, especially in pharma, biotech, clinical diagnostics.
Right.
So the U.S. market grew from about $127 million in 2021 to a projected $260 million by 2033. That's a CAGR of 6.128%. Substantial in value, obviously, but the growth rate is slightly below the global average, which, is pretty common for more mature markets. They're innovators, they're major consumers of the tech, but their growth is more about steady expansion than, say, explosive new adoption.
Got it. So steady expansion in the U.S.
Exactly. But interestingly, within North America, Canada actually shows a higher growth rate. It's projected to reach nearly $30 million by 2033. Up from about $13 million in 2021. That's a CAGR of 7.122%.
Oh, interesting. Higher than the U.S. rate.
Yeah, it could indicate maybe targeted investment in specific Canadian sectors or maybe just faster adoption of new analytical tech there. So this mix tells us, while the U.S. is dominant, there's still dynamism even within these established regions.
Fascinating to see those nuances. Okay, let's cross the Atlantic, Europe. The report called it a continent of contrasts for this market. The region saw about $88 million in 2021, projected to hit $181.5 million by 2033. That CAGR is 6.265%, remarkably similar to North America's overall rate. So what accounts for this steady yet varied landscape?
It is an insightful comparison because while the overall regional growth is steady, like you said, there are really significant variations within Europe that highlight that continent of contrasts idea. Germany, for instance. It stands out as the strongest performer there. It's projected to hit over $38 million by 2033, up from about $17 million in 2021. That's a high CAGR of 6.98%. And you can probably attribute that to Germany's strong manufacturing, its strong pharma industry, heavy R&D investment. They consistently integrate advanced analytical tools.
Right, makes sense for Germany.
But then, in stark contrast, you have Russia. It shows the lowest growth rate in Europe, forecast to reach just under $9 million by 2033, from about $5 million in 2021. That CAGR is only 4.859%.
Wow, quite a difference.
Yeah, much lower pace, could reflect various factors, maybe different investment priorities, maybe slower modernization of its scientific infrastructure compared to others in Europe. And then you have other key players like the UK seeing a respectable 6.598% CAGR, France a bit lower at 5.715%. These figures really show how diverse economic and industrial landscapes across Europe affect how quickly this specialized market expands.
It's incredible how country-specific factors create such different paths, even on the same continent.
All right.
Okay, let's shift south, South America. The report mentioned notable momentum there, an emerging growth picture, started at about $24.4 million in 2021, projected to reach over $55 million by 2033. That's a strong CAGR of 7.035%. How's that momentum building?
Indeed. And what's fascinating here is, while the overall market size is smaller compared to, say, North America or Asia Pacific, the growth rate in South America is actually quite competitive, even exceeding some larger regions. Brazil leads in market value for the region, growing from about $9.5 million in 2021 to over $21 million by 2033. That's a CAGR of 6.903%. Its large agricultural sector, expanding healthcare infrastructure, those likely drive demand there.
Okay.
But Argentina, it shows a particularly strong CAGR, 7.544%, growing from about $4.6 million to nearly $11 million by 2033.
Higher than Brazil's rate, then.
Exactly.
Yep.
Could be indicative of maybe targeted investment in its growing biotech or perhaps food quality control sectors. This regional expansion just demonstrates that as economies develop and industrial capabilities grow, the demand for these precise analytical instruments tends to follow.
Makes perfect sense. Okay, finally, let's wrap up our regional tour. The Middle East and Africa, 2 regions, smaller overall market sizes, yes, but the report mentioned some interesting dynamic pockets of growth. For the Middle East specifically, the market was about $21.5 million in 2021, projected to reach $48 million by 2033. That's a CAGR of 6.903%.
And this raises an important point. Even in regions with, let's say, smaller market footprints overall, you see individual countries showing growth rates that are comparable to, or sometimes even exceeding, some of the global powerhouses.
Like who?
Well, the UAE, for example, experiencing strong growth of 7.496% CAGR, going from just under $4 million to over $9.4 million by 2033. This rapid expansion in the UAE, it likely reflects its big diversification efforts, significant investments in advanced infrastructure, and a growing focus on sectors like healthcare and scientific research.
Okay.
Turkey is also notable, a 7.304% CAGR, from about $3.3 million to $7.8 million by 2033, driven by its own industrial and scientific development push.
Got it. And Africa. The overall market there was around $17.8 million in 2021, expected to reach about $39.4 million by 2033. That's a CAGR of 6.377%. What's the standout story there?
In Africa, South Africa clearly remains the largest market. It's projected to grow from about $7.2 million to nearly $17 million by 2033. That's a solid 6.967% CAGR. Its more developed industrial and scientific sectors are the key drivers there. So look, even though these 2 regions combined are a smaller piece of the global pie right now, the specific country-level growth rates, like in the UAE and Turkey, show that investment and adoption of this tech are happening across a really diverse set of economies. It just underscores the global, almost pervasive nature of this specialized market. It finds footholds wherever precision analysis is needed.
Okay, so let's try and unpack this for you, our listener. What are the absolute key takeaways from this deep dive? What should you really carry with you?
Yeah, the core insights are pretty clear, I think, and they paint a compelling picture of where global science and industry seem to be heading. First, this market. It's experiencing strong, consistent global growth, projected to nearly double by 2033. That signals a growing fundamental need for these precise analytical tools worldwide.
Right, double.
Second, Asia-Pacific. It's the undeniable leader in growth rate. Countries like India, Singapore, Southeast Asia, showing some of the highest KGRs globally. It's a critical region, driven by industrialization, pharma growth, increased science investment.
Okay, APAC leading growth.
Third, North America. It remains the largest market by total value, but its growth rate, along with Europe's, while solid, is generally slower than the global average, reflecting more mature, established markets, consistent demand, but less explosive.
Makes sense. Mature markets.
Fourth, there's significant regional diversification and country-specific strengths. You see these surprising pockets of high growth in places like Argentina, the UAE, Turkey. That points to targeted investment and adoption in developing economies, too.
Right, the surprising pockets.
And finally, even within continents, you see stark contrasts, like Germany's strength versus Russia's slower pace in Europe. That highlights varied economic priorities, different stages of scientific development across the globe.
That's a fantastic summary. So you just got a shortcut, basically, to being incredibly well-informed on a very specific, yes, but globally significant growing market, complete with fascinating facts, deep regional insights. You now understand not just the numbers, but the key dynamics shaping this sector, from the big global trends down to country highlights and what might be driving them.
Exactly. And maybe this raises an important question for you to think about beyond just the numbers we discussed. While we've clearly seen where the growth is accelerating, understanding why certain regions and countries are outperforming or underperforming the specialized market, well, that can offer deeper lessons. Lessons about global tech adoption, about industrial investment patterns, the broader landscape of economic development. What might be that unique mix of factors driving, say, India's standout growth in this specific field, or Russia's comparatively slower expansion. Beyond just the raw economic figures, it's a puzzle worth contemplating, I think.
That is a truly thought-provoking idea to mull over. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope this gives you a clearer picture, maybe sparks your curiosity, and fuels your own journey of discovery. Until next time, keep digging deeper.